Yeah. Annapurna, without taking your name, just give your introduction, a brief introduction, which is likely to be, you may be asked in board also.
Right, sir.
Yeah, please.
So, I've completed my schooling from Patna, and post that, I moved to Bangalore to complete my graduation in Electronics and Communication Engineering. I finished it in 2018. So, after that, I was employed as a semiconductor engineer in Intel, and I have a work experience of 3 years.
At Bangalore?
Right, sir, Bangalore.
Good. Okay. Yeah.
So, you've taken geography as your optional subject, and you're also electronics and communication engineer. Police service is your first option.
Right, sir.
Why police? Any specific reason?
So I believe that the diversity of options that I would be getting in the services and the amount of perceptible outcome and direct outcome that can be visible from my steps and the initiatives that I would take are one of the primary reasons that I chose police services.
As an engineer and as a female, what do you have in mind that you can do as a police officer when you get posted?
Right. So firstly, as an engineer, I would say, so the knowledge and information that I have gained over the years of my engineering studies, that would come handy when it comes to the technological aspect of implying that education into the policing. For example, sir, into investigations, into analysis and mapping, so also interdepartmental usage of technology, and among the staffs as well. My technological know-how would come handy for me. So after that, as a woman, the steps that I would take. So the primary step would be to make the policing more approachable, and also, again, sir, technology comes handy in this, because the women who are far off can also be reached via the technology. So thirdly, community policing is something I would pay attention on. So for example, all women thanas or pink van patrolling are certain steps that I would like to take.
What about social media?
Right, sir. Social media has its own role to play, and it would be a great tool to, firstly, to enhance the coverage of the initiatives that the government is taking, to enhance the awareness towards the people, to make them aware of whatever services are there and whatever initiatives that are being taken by the government.
You are a semiconductor specialist, right?
Right, sir.
So, what's so special about semiconductor? Why is it in the news, especially after COVID?
Right, sir. So semiconductors are materials which have conductivity between those of metals and insulators. So conductors and insulators. So they have this advantage that we can control the amount of conductivity they provide. So why it has been news and the sudden surge in news post pandemic? Because everything, most of the items, starting from our cell phones to the automobiles, the computers, everything involves a small chip which is made up of a semiconductor, hence the importance.
But then what happened? Why is it in the news? Was there a shortage? Was there an oversupply? What was the problem?
Right, sir. So there was a demand supply mismatch. Firstly, sir, because of the lockdown, there was an increase in digital education, working, and a lot of services came on the digital front. In that aspect, electronic gadgets became a huge demand item, and for that, the companies and the manufacturers, they increased the demands for those electronic devices. However, so the uh, places where these chips are fabricated are very limited in number, and in certain places only, because they demand a huge infrastructural and setup cost. So there was a huge demand supply difference, and the supply chain was interrupted because of
I
that.
was looking for that answer. Supply chain got disrupted because of the economic ban on the Chinese products.
Right, sir.
Right. So that created the demand supply mismatch.
Thank you, sir.
What is the geographical importance of Bihar in the Indian economy?
So Bihar is a landlocked state in the eastern part of the country, and so the geographical importance lies in the fact that there are a number of rivers that flows through the state. Also, sir, there are a number of minerals that are found in the state. Bihar is one of the leading producers of pyrites in the country and contributes immensely in that direction. Geographically speaking, sir, Bihar has also a role to play when it comes to the crops in agriculture, because it is an agriculture intensive state and it contributes immensely in that. That's all. Thank you, sir.
So, you have been in Bangalore and you were with Intel for a while. 3 years you worked with Intel.
Yes, sir.
Now, TRAI, it was a news for something connected with the, what was it, which is the context in which it was a news?
So TRAI is.
Yep.
So it is the Telephone Regulatory Authority of India, and so.
They made certain recommendations
So I'm sorry, sir, I'm not able
about
to
the
recall.
auction of 5G
Right.
and the floor price for that. You know, they had reduced it to almost 40% in certain bands,
Right, sir.
which even then the prospective candidates wanted it further down. That was one thing.
Right, sir.
And the other one is, have you heard of Pradhan Mantri Sangrahalaya?
No, sir, I'll have to
You
read
not heard of
into
Pradhan
it.
Mantri Sangrahalaya? Prime Minister had inaugurated that. The
Museum.
In
The
a museum.
Yes, sir. So I have heard about it, but I have not read about it extensively. So I would have to look into it. Sir.
Mission Karma Yogi, have you heard of?
Yes, sir.
What is that?
Sir, Mission Karma Yogi is specifically a scheme and an initiative for the civil servants and to enhance their skill base and efficiency into the services.
Only skill.
Um,
There's some very important thing they mentioned there was probity. I mean, skill, of course, you do it. I mean, the ethical values to be enhanced. That was one thing. Am I right? That is the crux.
so,
Otherwise, skills are anyway being done every few years. We have all gone through that. Have you heard of Navneet Rana? Does a bell ring?
I'm sorry, sir.
Does a bell ring when I say Navneet Rana? Lot of write-up about her.
In Maharashtra.
Maharashtra context. Hanuman Chalisa. Jai Hanuman, Gan Guru Sagar. Nahin? Out.
आज क्या हो रहा है दिल्ली में, which is a national important news?
Sir, one thing that is happening is the elections of Rajya Sabha is happening, and
What's happening?
Delhi.
sir, Rajya Sabha elections, sir, in Delhi.
Rajya Sabha elections are over.
Yes, sir. So
Opened. And they've happened. And the results are out. Today, Rahul was.
Sir, yes, sir. So there was one statement that was made by the opposition leader, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, and there was some controversy around it because the statement was made on Mr. Narendra Modi related to that.
बहुत general मार रहे हो तुम. It is about the Enforcement Directorate's case of money laundering. Have you heard of this case?
Sir, I could not go through the newspaper today properly, sir.
Not today. It's been happening for long. Today is only the date when it is happening. But the write-up was there for the last 10 days, where the National Herald as a newspaper and its property, prime property, which the allegations are that money was laundered to through that course.
That was one.
अच्छा ये बताइए election to the prime president कब हो रहा है?
Sir, it is scheduled to happen in the next month, around 21st, 22nd of July.
You're very close to it. Thank you. What else can I say?
अच्छा, मेरे कुछ फ्रेंड्स हैं पुलिस में, वो डीएसपी, और वो कहते हैं कि बहुत गंदा है अंदर से, और कई बार तो थप्पड़ मारना पड़ता है, और कुछ मेरे वुमेन कांस्टेबल है या वो नहीं मार पाती थप्पड़, और हमारा काम बहुत डिफिकल्ट हो जाता है. So, are you aware of these things also?
Right, sir. So, being in the police services gains a lot of responsibilities and so also power. And so as it is said, with great power comes great responsibilities. When one is in an authoritative position, they have to demand a certain amount of, they have to demand the authority that they have been, the chair provides them. And so yes, I'm aware that certain steps have to be taken and the women or men officers have to be bold enough to take them. So I'm aware of this.
पुलिस के बारे में ये भी बोलते हैं बहुत थैंकलेस जॉब है इसमें.
Um, so I believe that it can be a subjective statement and it could have been made by certain people, but if we say it in a general way, so I believe that it is not true.
One question: what is a feudal society?
Right, sir. So the feudal society is a concept that has been in our system from the ancient times, even before independence. It was a part of the ancient culture. We can see that in the Guptas and the.
No, what about present? Are we still a feudal society?
So feudalism.
और कहते हैं कि जहाँ इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन कम होगा वहाँ पर फ्यूडलिज्म ज़्यादा होता है.
Right, sir. So industrialization does impact the economy of the state, and if industrialization is coming into the picture, then agriculture to some extent will be reduced. So it is said to some certain extent that feudalism comes into picture in the agriculture backdrop, wherein the farmers and the landlords, they have a certain relationship, and literacy rate, the poor literacy rate and the poor economic seepage has a role to play in it. So sir, while the statement is a little generic, but it can be hold true in the, certain cases that yes, if industrialization is.
Is feudalism gender neutral, or it can be? I mean, women can also be feudal in mindset.
Yes, sir, I agree, sir. The feudalism is a gender neutral statement, and even a woman can be feudal in the mindset. Thank you, sir.
मेरा नाम अमन कुमार है. मैंने 66वीं बीपीएससी परीक्षा में सफलता हासिल की है. मेरा रैंक 254 आया है और मैं लेबर इन्फोर्समेंट ऑफिसर के पद पर चयनित हुआ हूँ. मैं पटना का ही निवासी हूँ और मेरी प्रारंभिक शिक्षा पटना में ही है. मैंने 2017 से सिविल सेवा परीक्षा की तैयारी चालू की और चाणक्य इस अकेडमी से मुझे मॉक इंटरव्यू गाइडेंस बहुत अच्छा मिला. यहाँ के टीचर्स ने मुझे बहुत अच्छे से गाइड किया, जिसके कारण मैं आज सफल हो पाया हूँ. साथ ही साथ मैं बीपीएससी की तैयारी कर रहे स्टूडेंट्स को ये बताना चाहूँगा कि आप अपना जो सिलेबस है उस पर अच्छे से फोकस कीजिए. प्रीलिम्स, मेंस, इंटरव्यू 3 फेज होते हैं. तीनों की अपनी अपनी रिक्वायरमेंट्स हैं, तो उसको फुलफिल कीजिए और निरंतर प्रयास करते रहिए.
At one time, Intel used to be perhaps the only company making chips. They will say it has Intel chip, Intel processor. Now I'll ask few questions in one go. Which is the company today fabricating largest number of chips, supplying all over the world? What is the normative cost of establishing a semiconductors foundry? What are the 3 major decisions India has taken for making a semiconductor mission successful? And in that mission, what is the size in terms of nanometer of the semiconductors that they intend to fabricate? Should I ask one by one? It's okay.
Okay, I'll try to answer. So the first question, sir, which is the most largest industry? So I'm not exactly sure, sir. If you allow, can I take a guess? So I believe, is it Qualcomm, sir?
Qualcomm is not the one. Taiwan, think in terms of Taiwan. Which is that company?
Huawei.
There is a Taiwan semiconductors manufacturing company which has its foundries in number of countries, including one in communist China.
So I would not like to take a guess, sir. I think I'm forgetting it. I had.
What about other questions?
So the second question is that the steps taken.
3 decisions taken by Government of India for making the mission successful.
So the first step was that the PLI scheme was allowed in the semiconductor sector. So the second step was a corpus of around 76,000 crores was provided.
$10 billion
Right, sir, for the industry.
earmarked.
Right, sir, and specifically for a chip and electronic display units
And
setup.
third?
And third was a specs scheme was also put into picture. Specs, so the scheme for promotion of electronics manufacture.
Only specific to the semiconductors. There is one more decision, rather set of decision,
So
giving the subsidy grant to those who will set up industries in India.
Right.
What is that? How much grant? Let me be specific.
sorry, sir, I would not be able to guess the exact
There
number.
is 50% on the capital
Right.
investment,
Right.
and then 30% on the accessories, and 5% on the sales for 5 years, initial 5 years. So you are from semiconductors, you have to brush up that. Okay, now this is the end of your interview. Let us
Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.